Daryl, it's now 9 o'clock. You can feel free to begin, or if you want to give folks a couple minutes still while they're coming in, up to you.
I'm going to give one more minute because I see folks are slowly still adding in. So I want to give folks the opportunity. All right, we're going to get started. I call this joint meeting of the Civil Service and P&A Senates to order at 9:01 a.m. Welcome, everyone. This is a somewhat rare occurrence where both of our Senates are meeting. I know that we all have been hearing a lot about the benefits changes from our constituents, and I think this is an opportunity for us to not only share what we've been hearing, but also provide some action within the structure of shared governance regarding it. So, I wanted to give a little bit of context heading into everything before I pass everything over to Amber and then Molly for the first portion of the meeting. So, if we want to chat about timeline, Molly and I were notified about the benefits changes less than 2 days before the university-wide email went out. We were in a meeting that Monday at 3 p.m. Our consultative committees were then briefed Tuesday, and the university-wide email went out at approximately 1 p.m. Wednesday. So, Molly and I thought it important to inform you all about the context that we were not able to convene meetings prior to this information going out. So, that's why this meeting is happening now. We wanted to get everyone together as quickly as possible. And part of that delay was us being able to draft the letter, which we will be talking about in the second portion of this meeting. So, um, the first portion of the meeting, this is for us to share what we ourselves think about the benefits changes, but also, and more importantly, what we believe are the sentiments of our constituents. This is going to be drawing upon the qualitative data that you've been hearing from your constituents to share the reactions and impacts of the changes of the benefits. This will then come into play in our discussion in the second portion of the meeting about the letter. So, Amber is going to be able to give us the framework for the discussion in the first portion. And I think that, we're typically pretty casual in both of our senates, but we are going to go by the university senate standards just to keep things organized. So I'm going to pass it over to Amber to explain the process for getting on the speakers list and what that even means. And also important notes about the meeting itself as we share the next hour and a half together. So, Amber, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Daryl. So I just put a link in the chat, and it's also in your docket. This is the link. A link to a Google form that will get you into the speakers queue. So the reason we're doing this is so that we can keep track of, especially when we get into the second half, when we're doing pro-con debate, we can keep track of who's pro and con, and also which constituency is there, so that we don't have to rely on the raise hands, which gets a little bit messy. So you just click on that link, you fill out the Google form, it will ask you your name, obviously, which constituency you're in. Um, this is the form I use for the University Senate as well. So faculty and student are options, or we might have faculty and students here. I don't know. It asks you if you're in favor of the motion on the floor or against it. For the first part of the meeting, you can just ignore that because there won't be a motion on the floor. But when we get to the second part talking about the letter, you'll want to put whether you're in favor of the letter or against it in your in the form. And then the last question on there is just, do you need time yielded? So if there's anyone here who's not a senator but who would like to speak, you can select yes on that. And then when we get to you, I will say this person is not a senator. Would anyone like to yield time? And then if you would like to yield time, you can just unmute and say I yield time. So yeah, I'll call on names in the order that they show up in the spreadsheet. When we get to the second part, I'll alternate between the pro and cons, but for the first part, it'll just be whoever is next in line. I will also put a link to the spreadsheet that the Google form feeds to so that everyone can see where they are in line. And then just one more reminder, especially for the second part of the meeting when we will have a vote, it's important to stay around so that we maintain quorum. If you do need to leave, please message me and I will cross your name off the list so that we know that we have quorum or not when we get to that point. All right, thanks.
And I think this is where I take over. So thank you so much. I echo Daryl's sentiments that this is an not unprecedented, but rare occurrence that both our Senates come together, but also that they come together before the start of the fall semester. So I really appreciate you all taking the time to do this work earlier than you might have expected. And I also want to share my deep, sincere thanks to the Senate office staff. Lori, Amber, Donovan, Dina, Jacqueline, Jessica, they've all been with us along this journey, and we are really grateful for the support they provide us. With that, I'm just going to get us into the discussion around the benefits changes. We want to hear from you and your constituents, so we're not going to do a lot of talking in this portion. So as Amber noted, please add yourself to the queue. And Amber, do we already have anybody on the queue? Yes, we do. Okay, so Amber's going to call out who's next, just so you know. She did post the link so you can see when in the list you are, so you can prepare yourself to unmute. If you are uncertain about sharing your concerns on this Zoom, we do have the additional form to submit yours or your constituents' concerns to that will also be shared with university leadership. So Amber, please let us know who's the first speaker.
All right. First up, we have Carla Cayley.
Hello here. I didn't need any time to speak. I think I did that wrong. My apologies.
No problem.
Okay.
So then next we have Eric Meyer.
Yeah, so I'm very new. I was just elected this past couple months ago. And I guess is there going to be any kind of and I haven't had an opportunity to necessarily speak to my constituents or anything. Is there going to be any kind of like one-sheeters that go out or anything like that outside of this pertaining especially to the benefits changes as we talk or yeah, just curious. Again, new, so not sure. Thank you.
Eric, thank you and welcome to University Governance. Do you mean a one-sheeter specifically about these benefits changes?
Yeah, just like the talking points behind it or like a summary of all of the changes. While I've been paying attention, I definitely I just didn't know if there's anything specific for the group that we should be relaying more within our lanes as senators, I guess. If that makes sense, which it may not. And happy Friday.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. And what I will say is we've been relying on the university HR website that explains the benefits changes, including the email that went out directing people to that link. So we did not prepare a one-sheeter of any sort for talking points, but that's a really interesting question that we can continue to think about.
Thank you.
Amber, do we have another speaker ready?
Sorry about that delay. Yes. Next up is Abigail Alves.
Hi, I am Abigail Alves. I work within the med school, civil service. I really appreciate everyone here, and just I wasn't even expecting this to be a possible outcome. I and some of my fellow civil service coworkers are just incredibly, I guess disappointed is like the best word to say, with this news. And we just kind of have a mutual feeling that the university just keeps contradicting commitments or promises, whether it's, you know, the climate action plan or this. It just makes it a less desirable place to work. And it's very frustrating, given the current climate. So that's all I wanted to say. So thank you. I am jumping ahead, but I'm for the letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Amber?
Next up is Catherine Seelam.
I am only going to say that I'm for the letter, and I've heard from quite a few of my constituents that they're not happy about these benefit changes.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Next is Sarah Backman.
Good morning. Thank you for organizing this, and I appreciate this time. I'm Sarah Bachman. I work at Sponsored Projects Administration. I'm civil service. Couple things. I have not personally had time to go and look at the changes. And I was hoping to use this meeting to learn more about the communication of what exactly these changes are. And I guess I want to communicate that the experience, my personal experience, is probably more closely related to the experience my colleagues are having. We don't even know what the changes are to even have a response towards them. I'm reviewing the email that I received from HR, which is great, and I have a comment on that following up. I think what's supposed to happen is we're supposed to take that email, go out to the website, do some research, and kind of go through the details of what is going to be changing. Is that the expectation of how employees are supposed to be proactively learning about these changes at this point?
That's a good question. And I think, and it also speaks to the first question Eric put forward of kind of a summary. Yes, I do believe that the communication we received, as we all received the same communication,
Okay.
I myself received it, is expecting each individual employee to take action to learn about the changes.
Okay. So what I can share with you from my colleagues is long email, super long website, and no one is paying attention to this. So I think the HR meetings are going to be kind of like a big awakening for what these changes are. So what I would provide for feedback is I think we're going to hear a lot more after the HR meetings have happened, if that helps for this purpose at all. I have communicated to my work groups, please attend, please attend. I know there are changes coming. I don't know what comprehensively those changes are. Please attend those meetings. This will have impacts on you. That's the only message I've sent out to encourage my groups. The second thing is I personally had a problem and didn't receive this email, and I don't know who to follow up with on that. I had to get it forwarded to me from a colleague. So if anybody here has a point of contact that I can follow up with, because I didn't get the email, I don't know if I'm missing from a listserv, which was weird to me because that's not normal.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry to hear that that was your experience. We can certainly follow up with you directly to make sure that you receive future communications about that.
Sure, that'd be great. I will wait to see what the letter says before making any more comments. So thanks again.
And to that point, the letter is linked in the docket, so feel free to be looking at that as we will discuss it. We will discuss it later in this meeting. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Amber.
Next is Angel Fancher.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm actually calling from a car in the middle of Wisconsin. We're on our way on vacation. It was this important that I be here for this.
We can hear you, Angel. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm PNA and I'm with OIT, and we have a lot of younger workers that have had their first child or are planning on having children. They pay extreme attention to what's going on, and all I've heard is I was going to plan for a child, me and my wife, or me and my husband next year, and there's no way we can afford what's going to be going on because they've delved into this now. And I think, again, whatever we say to get them on talking to us would be wonderful, but they really need to look at addressing if we're going to retain and recruit younger people, because I'm going to be retiring in 4 years. It would be nice if they made it employer friendly for them. They're not making us an employer of choice. There's no idea of how much this is going to cost everybody, because who knows how far the premiums are going to go up, even with all the stuff that they want to do. So I'd like to know if we can grab that money portion, or if they've even haven't figured out as of yet. That's all I've got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Angel.
All right. Next is Ray Muno.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
I
can.
want to thank the leadership for pulling this together so quickly, and the Senate office for making this come together so smoothly. I'll definitely echo what Angel just said about young families. This is a lot of what I've heard from people in the discussions that I've seen. Being on the consultative committee, the information that was provided to us was way more thorough than what went out to employees. So it's caused a lot of confusion and stuff, I think, in terms of what employees were seeing, especially of the copay versus co-insurance. What are you paying for? I think one of the big strengths of us having so many employees is that it's the power of the group insurance that we've always had, that the costs are distributed. I've been at the university for 34 years. You know, you start out when you're young. Now I'm at the end where I'm actually starting to use health insurance more, getting close to retirement. Most of those 30 years, hardly ever used it. Probably, never even hit my deductible some years of $100. But what I'm really concerned with is the younger employees that are lower paid, that the cost, the estimate that was given to us in the slide deck to the CSCC, to the consultation groups, of $3,500 cost in addition for having a child for just a birth with no complications. You could have a complicated birth, and between the child and the mother, I could see somebody hitting the $8,000 out-of-pocket maximum with one event. That's a huge hit to somebody who's just starting their career. So that's my biggest concern.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ray.
Next is Angel Sandreep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angel Sandreep. I'm a PNA senator. I'm also on the consultative committee for PNA, and felt like our communication, just like Raymond had just mentioned, was a lot more thorough, but I still had so many questions. And I'm hoping when HR has these listening sessions, they're really going to dive into what is deductibles, what is coinsurance, for a variety of different scenarios, because I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I had to really think about, what does coinsurance mean? I think that the information that's on the website is not enough. I don't think that there's been enough communication to people. If we're not reaching out to our constituents, I don't know if anybody else is, because that email just looks like, oh, there's changes coming up, just like always, right? And people are like, I'll get to that later. So if people aren't telling people to sign up for these HR discussions, I just don't know if our constituents are going to be aware of these changes. I'll yield back my time.
Thank you, Angel.
Next is Megan Haggerty.
Yeah, I'm Megan Haggerty, she, her pronouns. I'm the Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee co-chair for the PNA Senate, And so wanted to just kind of summarize what I feel like we have heard from our constituents about the feedback. One of the issues that I've heard several times is about the timeline, that 6 months doesn't feel like enough time to make adjustments to our personal finances in order to kind of manage what we're being asked to take on, in addition to the fact that the university is essentially passing 12 years of costs on to us all at once, where the university made the choice not to make any changes for 12 years, and now the employees are being asked to take all of that on all at once. A lot of feedback about the fact that this is negating what we've been told were merit pay increases, and I put merit pay in quotes because the percentage we're getting in merit pay increases is really more of a market adjustment in terms of a cost of living adjustment, but it's being sold to us as merit pay. There's also a lot of issues with transparency, which is very well addressed in the letter that we're going to talk about later. So I'm not going to get into a ton of that because I also know I only have like less than a minute left. We also have had a lot of conversation, or I have at least, with other constituents about, is there anything that OHR can do to feel like they're giving something back to employees? Because it doesn't feel like any of the feedback we're giving right now is going to change anything that's happening. So are there things like parking discounts, covering domestic partners, the Regent Scholarship applying to our dependents? What are some of the things that maybe the university can consider doing that would make us feel like we're giving something back? And then again, in regards to transparency, the market comparison people are feeling like is not transparent or necessarily in line. Like, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to corporate. And in that industry, we should be comparing ourselves to other Big Ten or other schools in the state of Minnesota, because other corporate places, you're going to get paid more. You're going to have the option for bonuses and things like that. So salary is a big, huge factor when we consider total compensation. Sorry, I know I went over time, but that was my attempt to summarize everything we've heard in the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Megan.
Next on the list is Kim Clark.
Hi, folks. I wish
I believe I'm next on the list.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Ellie McCann.
Thank you.
User error.
I have two pieces I'm going to speak to. One is about communication. Someone talked about the email that went out. It would be great. I'm with an extension, and we have a huge combination of civil service and P&A staff. So if an email could be a joint email, if it's going to affect us all across the board, that caused a lot of confusion. Also, I want to speak as a cancer survivor, and having had access to our current health care. If I did not have access to that, I would be hugely buried in debt at this time, but I am not. And these changes really could affect me and my health care. As a cancer survivor, I know there is a great risk in it coming back. So that is, some of you have talked about you haven't used it much. I have used it greatly, greatly appreciate it. And it scares me to think about the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.
Okay, now Kim Clark.
Hi. I'm a PNA senator, and I'm also co-chair with Casey on the outreach committee. I wish I had talked to Megan before, because a lot of the things I was like, she stole my notes. We were having a mind meld. So I'm representing the libraries, and we are both hopping mad and terribly confused. We're wondering about the questionable data, as Megan was saying. Why are we comparing ourselves to the business world? They start off with probably higher salaries. It's like squeezing blood from a turnip at this point. And my question, considering what my constituents were saying, surely there's a better way to do this. We're the University of Minnesota. We can be more creative, right? We have apparently the greatest minds in the galaxy. Surely there's a way that we can figure out how to manage rising costs with people's lives. And a lot of folks were saying that this math works out to be a pay cut for me. And as someone who manages a couple of chronic diseases, do I have to pay for my blood test now? Do I have to go to generic on my medications? Like, I'm not alone in questioning these changes. I also agree that we should have some other sorts of benefits, like who doesn't like another vacation day? And I don't know if people notice this, and maybe I'm being a petty Betty here, which is fine. But I was looking at the website and it said, if you have problems about being able to afford this is not the language that they're using, but this is sort of the sense of the language. If you have problems affording these new healthcare costs, click this link. So I clicked the link to see what it would say, and it's offering you financial counseling. How insulting is that? The problem is not that people don't know how to manage their money. There's not enough money to manage. I'm furious. Like, this whole tone has been so insulting. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. And before Amber calls on our next speaker, I wanted to clarify a question Ellie had brought forward about emails going out to both groups at the same time. And Ellie, just because other people may not know what you're referring to, so there's kind of two emails that people might be thinking of. There's the email that went out from OHR, from University Leadership, alerting all employees to these changes. And then there were separate emails that each Senate sent their own senators and alternates and likely onto their constituents. And I think you might have been referring to that second email that came out from our PAC group. Thank you, Ellie, for confirming. So just wanting to clear that up, since both Senates did send some amount, whether it was the chair or a member of the Senate. And then there was also the main employee facing communication from University Leadership. And Daryl, I see that you'd like to speak.
Yeah, just to clarify, civil services not send out a broad communication as PNA have done. We're waiting, by we, I mean, as chair, I'm using my discretion for the outcome of this meeting before communicating.
Thank you, Daryl. Amber, who's our next speaker?
Next is Molly Malone. Sorry, Mary Malone.
That's okay. Everyone's familiar with Molly. I'm Mary Malone, and I am a new senator. I just started this term, and I'm civil service representing academic affairs. And Megan and Kimberly, you really did kind of summarize again that mind meld thing. Absolutely. So thank you for that. There's just a couple of things I wanted to point out. One, I actually thought that when we first received the email, this was going to be a result of like Medica raising its premiums or its fees or something along those lines, only to find out that this is basically because the university doesn't want to pay as much anymore, which I find striking, since if you go to the jobs page to look at getting a job at the University of Minnesota, they're bragging about the benefits and how amazing they are. And so to institute this was a little surprising, but also especially when you're talking about in the last couple of months in the regents meetings, they approved over $7 million worth of salary increases for a whopping 7 people. 7 people. That is shocking. And the fact that the latest increase of over $2.1 million for the president herself comes just a few days after this email was sent, talking about a slap in the face. This absolutely negates our merit increase, especially if you have healthcare issues, if you actually go to see your doctors. The percentage of increases in co-pays and out-of-pocket expenses, the 15% co-insurance, the maximum, it's just unbelievable. And I can't believe, and Kimberly, I agree with you so much, I can't believe that we couldn't have come up with some other alternatives. But instead of consulting, instead of transparency, we're just going to implement this, and you guys don't have a choice about it. And I really think that the university needs to start doing better along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And as we're coming up on about 10-15 minutes left of this part of the discussion today, I just wanted to remind you, and Amber also just put it in the chat, of the virtual feedback form, as I know we have many people who'd like to speak and many, many other things we'd like to share with university leadership. So please continue to add there, even if you've spoken please feel free to add that. Amber, who's our next speaker?
Next is Laura Klein.
Laura, are you
Yep,
still with
I'm
us?
here.
There we
Sorry,
go. There we go.
technical difficulties. I think that Heidi Aschenbacher was actually before me.
Oh, you're right. I'm totally failing. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Laura. That's fine. This is Heidi Aschenbacher. I'm Civil Service Senate at the Masonic Cancer Center. I happen to report to Laura too, so thanks, Laura. And I was just noting that Ken Horstman is here, so thank you for being here, and also that you authored the letter out to the faculty or to all the people in the U. And I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit of, if I can yield my time to you to give us a little bit of an overview of what you're going to cover in the information sessions, and also what alternatives you had considered before making this decision.
I'll just jump in and say the chairs need to consent to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how that worked.
It's okay. That's okay.
It's okay. We had not, we are grateful that wow, I just combined your names. I'm sorry. Ken and Mary are both here listening. We had not invited them to speak. However, that is a great question, at least about that first part of what will the info sessions cover. Mary or Ken, would you be willing to share that?
I can try, and I want to be brief, and I don't know that that will respect the amount of information we're planning to share. But the intent was to get this message out early so we had more time than we usually spend in open enrollment to educate and talk about this. And that's what the webinars are initially intended to do. Since that email has gone out, we have received a lot of feedback like we're getting here today, and we will adjust our approach based on this feedback as we go forward. So there may be some other channels where we provide, albeit a dense and lengthy amount of information, but we will attempt to do that in different ways, whether it's email or on the website, or setting up a way to talk to people individually that can be managed. So we're looking at that, but it will be much more in depth than what was on the initial email. And if you can make those and register for one, I think that would be a good first step in this process.
Thank you, Ken. Heidi, you do still have time if you'd like to say anything else.
I guess I just would, if you're able to indicate what the financial savings would be on this decision, and also what alternatives were considered, I think that would be really helpful just for our community to better understand how the university is making decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. And I think actually these questions may very likely come up as we discuss the letter. Because those are some things we address in the letter, some questions and requests of university leadership we address in the letter. So if you don't mind, Heidi, I'll have that come in the second half of the meeting, and we'll continue on with our queue of speakers at this point of the discussion. Thanks, Heidi. And thanks, Ken.
All right, now Laura Klein.
Hi, thanks. I'm Laura Klein. I am a PNA center in the Masonic Cancer Center, so representing OACA, which is the Office of Academic Clinical Affairs. I don't really have much new to add. I think there's obviously some mind meld going on here. Consistently across the board, we have heard a lot of frustration from our PNA constituents. Ultimately, I mean, the points have already been brought. This is effectively a pay cut, which, the timing of it is impeccable just after the pay increases were, put in place to have this communication come out. And I mean, everything has been stated before, while we're getting slapped with this, the highest among us, including the president, have gotten significant increases. And then that it impacts a lot of the lowest, wage workers or new employees as well. So I won't add, and then just mainly the transparency issue has been expressed. I did, and I think Heidi got to this question as well. We did hear from a constituent that it would be very helpful to, in essence, see how much this cost is shifting from the university, what they're covering to employees. And I don't think that has been communicated at all at this point. And yes, I'm done.
Thank you, Laura. Amber.
Next is Lauren Nahersky.
Good morning. Thank you. I am a civil service senate member in the medical school. So the premiums are published, but I'm not sure that that is widely known. So some healthcare plans are seeing a bigger change than others. And so to talk about this across the board is challenging. For me in the healthcare plan I am on, I'm most concerned about the huge increase in the deductible and also the coinsurance and what that opens up. I also want to note that I was on a medical school forum this week, and the changes were described as, increasing premiums and co-pays and quote, modifying deductibles, coinsurance, and out-of-pocket, which again is sort of insulting. All of this is a pay cut, to be clear, for many employees, especially those with underlying health conditions. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Lauren.
Next is Frances Fernandez.
Hi, good morning. Frances Fernandez. I'm a new alternate senator for PNA at the College of Continuing Professional Studies. That OHR email from 7/22, I have not seen that at all. So I've heard that a couple of times already today. And, I echo the confusion of, who this applies to again, because it looks like not everybody received it. I'm also concerned about this notification being sent over the summer when we have a lot of benefited employees who are off for the summer, whether they're 9 or 10-month appointments. And then finally, this message is not really aligned with our strategic plan of Elevate Extraordinary. When our own employees are not being taken care of to advance our excellence, to lead the application of sustainable solutions regarding health. Those proposed changes are not sustainable for whether it's individuals, families, or in this economy. And that's what I have to say. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Frances. We're going to add to chat for all of you, like the subject of the email that came out, just in case I went to your spam, but it is concerning that more than one of you never received this email, because obviously it's incredibly important to you to know this information. So we're going to keep following up about that, but we're going to add to chat the subject of the email in case that helps you find it. Amber, who's our next speaker?
Next is Jeremy Jenkins.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I am a PNA senator from the College of Science and Engineering. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said before. But there's a second issue that I think it might in some ways be secondary, but I don't want us to lose sight of it because I think it's important. And the letter gets into this a little bit, but let's stipulate for the moment the possibility that this is financially inevitable and that we get the data and say, oh, yeah, well, that's the only way this will work out. That's possible. It doesn't change the fact that this was announced and delivered in a way that it was just sort of dropped as a bombshell. And the fact is, a decision of this magnitude could not have been reached overnight or in the course of a week. So it should have been discussed with the senates before. And there should have been this discussion of, hey, things are bad. We're going to have major changes. Let's work this through and let's explain it so we can get everyone on board. To just drop it is, one, it's insulting. Two, it's a little baffling. And three, I think tactically, it doesn't make sense given that at least what I'm hearing and in my judgment, this current administration doesn't have a lot of extra trust on its side. It hasn't earned or gotten the trust of the university community. So it, really, this just blows another hole in that relationship. And I think it's a tremendous own goal, even if it was inevitable that we had to do this. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Next is Veronica Paproka.
Thank you. I'm Veronica. I'm a PNA senator and co-chair of the Comp and Benefit Subcommittee, and I'm representing Carlson. I wanted to echo everything that's been said, but also bring up two things. The first is the anxiety and the stress of not knowing. So many constituents said, I wish that email had a webinar for tomorrow. I would have attended it because the stress of not knowing for 3 weeks about if their children could have the surgeries that they need, all those different things was huge, and they just wanted it to know. And since that was pre-scheduled, there could have been a webinar the next day. That's something that would have made a huge difference for constituents. The other thing that people kept bringing up is like, this is a pay cut at a time where our department has been short-staffed, has not been rehiring, and people have been asked to do more and more and more and more, and now more is being taken from them financially, and they don't have enough time to save up to pay the $8,000 out-of-pocket max next year, and they needed more time to be able to do these things during a particularly tough year where they've been stretched thin and the university continually asks far too much of them. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica.
Next is Lisa Radke.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm with the PNA Senate, and I represent the Duluth campus. Like others have said, my comments will probably echo some of the others that have been shared, but while I certainly understand that health insurance costs are going to increase, to have a jump of this magnitude is really hard to adapt to on short notice. And because there are a lot of details that are related to our various health plans and increased costs, I would love to see a side-by-side comparison of our current plans to the proposed plans so that we can see the total impact before open enrollment takes place. And I think too that we've prided ourselves as a university on quality and affordable healthcare options, and these changes are a considerable shift, resulting in a pay cut. I also feel that the shift of this size will prevent proactive healthcare and seems to contradict the U's recent adoption of the Okanagan Charter, which focuses on wellness. I'm also concerned that there wasn't more consultation with our senates before these changes were made. This is why we have governance, and transparency is what builds trust, and that seems to be lacking on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We have time for one more speaker, and Amber will let us know who that is, and then we'll kind of transition to the discussion around the letter.
Yep, next is Megan Weber.
Hi, thank you. I'm Megan Weber. I'm a PNA senator. I represent University of Minnesota Extension, and I really appreciated Ellie's personal story, and so I wanted to share mine as well. When I joined the university, I came to the university from private industry, and I actually took a pay cut to come work at the university, and the benefits packages were part of what allowed me to do that, including the medical plan. My twins were born prematurely, 11 weeks early, on that old medical plan that I had with my old provider. And they were born on January 3rd, which meant that I had a whole bunch of complications the year prior to their birth and then had a NICU stay for their birth. So I hit 2 out-of-pocket maximums. I had over $20,000 in medical debt due to their birth. And these changes set people up to have that same experience that I had. It was really difficult for us to dig out of that debt when we had to work less and had to spend a lot of time in the hospital. And they also now continue to have, health issues that stem from prematurity. Even 10 years later, we have specialist visits that we have to go to multiple times, times 2 because there's twins. And those all add up. And it's hard, especially adding in complications like coinsurance, to know what to expect to pay in advance, but also to know that there's some big expenses coming up for our family following on to that premature birth. So I really hope that you'll think about that impact that it has, and the ability that I had to come to a job that I really love because of benefits packages, and to be able to take that pay cut and to have these things that really made it worth it and easy for me to make that decision as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Megan. And everybody, thank you for sharing what you've experienced. Those are not easy things to share in these broad groups, so I really appreciate that you're open with that. And again, I want to remind you all that this is not the end of the feedback. We are still continuing to take your feedback on the form, as well as through your role as senators. So I know the P&A Consultative Committee even has our own spreadsheet where we've been collecting what we've been hearing as well. So this is not the end of the forum for feedback. Again, I appreciate everybody following along with the queue, and Amber for your management of the queue. And so as we move to Daryl taking us into this discussion around the letter, again, I just encourage you to continue using that virtual feedback link, speaking to your constituents, bringing forward their concerns and stories, encouraging them to sign up for the info sessions, of course. We also were notified that one of the info sessions will be recorded and posted to the OHR website so that those who are unable to attend will be able to at least watch one of the info sessions, but that will not happen until late August or early September after the info sessions have run. So just sharing that out as well, that we were notified of that.
All right, so we are going to move into the letter portion of everything. Thank you so much for everyone sharing your thoughts, both personal and what you've been hearing from constituents. It's really important that we do take those into consideration as we move into the second portion. Before we start the discussion on the letter, I want to have Lori, the director of the Senate office, sort of explain what mechanisms are in place when it comes to benefits consultation and feedback. So, Lori, why don't you give us a rundown of that, and then I will lead us into discussion on the letter.
Sure. Thanks, Daryl. And I will be brief. I'm going to share my screen. So that you can see this image, which was also, I believe, included in the docket as well. One of the questions that you might imagine we get when there are changes, big major changes, is what are the mechanisms or structure that currently exist for facilitating communication and consultation? And so I've provided this for you just to give you a snapshot of what this currently looks like in governance and outside of governance. So within governance, there are essentially two subcommittees and one committee that are charged with the responsibility for monitoring, evaluating, and advocating for employee benefits for the respective constituent groups. That is not the only part of the charge that these groups have, but benefits is one of them. For the P&A, as has already been mentioned, because we've had some co-chairs who are here this morning, there's a benefits and comp subcommittee. For civil service, a comp and benefits. And on the faculty side, it's the Senate Committee for Faculty Affairs that's charged with that piece. You may also hear of the Benefits Advisory Committee, and you see that reflected in this diagram. Benefits Advisory Committee is not a governance committee. However, it has representatives on that committee that are recommended to it from the P&A Senate, the Civil Service Senate, and Faculty Senate. BAC also includes prospective representatives from labor represented groups, which is also an important voice, and are not part of governance in the University of Minnesota system, and retirees as well. So this is the current structure that exists to facilitate communication and consultation. And I'm going to turn this back over to Daryl. If there are any questions, happy to respond as we go.
Thank you so much, Lori. I did want to just preface the letter as we move into discussion, like, how does the letter come about? Again, a shout out to our Senate staff for being able to take the ideas that Molly and I had and make them make sense. Because we wanted to be able to, one, express what we had been hearing as chairs of the separate Senates, and then two, move into action items. So that's sort of what you see in that letter. It's two chunks, and the staff was able to take our ideas, especially Lori and Amber, and make sure that they gelled, and that we were hopefully, I mean, this is up to your approval at the end of this, able to articulate what we wanted as an outcome. So right now we are moving into a separate speakers list. And Amber, can you give us a quick rundown over what this means? It's more than just a speakers list. We want to make sure that folks are able to articulate things in a certain way. So, Amber, how does this optimally work for us?
Yep, so the link and everything will stay the same. I've just made a note of where the last discussion ended. And this is where it's going to be important to use that pro or con selection there. So we'll be, as much as there is any alternating, we'll alternate between pro and con perspectives. Other than that, we'll just go in the order that is received.
All right, so I think we are ready to launch right into that. And then if you do have points of order or things like that, there are instructions in what Amber sent out to prepare for this meeting. So let's go with our first speaker. Amber, who is it?
All right, so I did have a question. So Crystal King got in the line for the end of the last discussion. Crystal, would you like to speak to this one, or should I remove you?
No, you can remove me. That's fine.
Okay. Then next up is Megan Haggerty.
Thank you. I am speaking in favor of the letter and sending it. My question, I guess, to Daryl and Molly is, would there be an option under, I think you called it recommendations, to add something to the effect of, we would want OHR to consider the things we've heard from our constituents about, like being able to feel like we can give something back to employees? Because like I said, to me, it feels like this is not, like they're not going to come out next week and be like, just kidding, y'all, we're going to change this again, right? So could we add something to the letter that says something to the effect of, like, we encourage OHR to consider other benefits that they could offer? And maybe, we can list some of the ideas we've heard from our constituents. But I think that would be helpful if we could encourage university leadership to consider that. And then I apologize that I don't remember if there was something in the letter, because I read it earlier, about the idea that this doesn't align well with employees being asked to take on these additional costs when we've been hiring VPs at what feels like a rapid pace. And then the president just got a contract extension that came with a, additional salary. I don't remember if that's specifically called out, but I feel like that is something that has been specifically raised to us. And it sounds like from our earlier discussion, that is something that our employees have been talking about, as, feeling not, just not in line with, or I don't know, feeling like it's another, like, kind of slap in the face. So I don't know if that's something else we could add to the letter. I'm definitely in favor of sending it, but those are my two suggestions, I guess, for what I might add based on the feedback I've gotten from constituents. Sorry, I wasn't as well prepared for that conversation as I was for the first time I spoke.
Sure. I can answer that first part, Lori, if you're comfortable with me doing that, or you could answer it.
Well, actually, I was just going to pop in to give some guidance to you and Molly. And just to clarify from Megan, it sounds like there are two parts you're asking to be included here. One in the list of, this is for clarity for everyone who will be voting later. Add to the recommendations considering other benefits that could be provided in lieu of the changes to health insurance. And two, in the first part, reference that at the same time these changes have been occurring, there have been increases to salaries among senior leaders. Megan, is that correct? Are those the two that you're asking for?
Thank you so much for making that sound way more concise than what I rambled on about, Lori.
Okay, and then my guidance, just I'll turn it over to you, Daryl, for both of you, is that you are welcome to accept those as friendly amendments.
Sure. I think Megan, and for everyone else in the room except for Megan, Megan was my advisor when I was an undergraduate student leader at Minnesota Mankato. So this is a reverse of all that from a couple decades ago. I think the first part that you're concerned about is captured in one of the action items, which are increased meetings with compensation groups, because I think those meetings can be utilized for in the longer term to explore what other things, whatever those things may be, could be offered to employees. And that's something that Molly and I did consider. The second point, I will consult with Molly about whether or not we accept that as a friendly amendment. And I will do that as we move on to our next speaker. So, Amber.
All right. The next speaker is Angel, or wait, sorry, I forgot to do the pro-con thing. Charles Rank is next.
Hi, good morning. Charles Rank, civil service civil service senator for one more day. The only reason I am con actually is because I just find that the letter does not probably go far enough. I mean, we frequently, at least in civil service, meet with OHR leadership, and I believe we have a good relationship, but the fact of the matter is this just wasn't communicated until the last second. I believe CSCC received a presentation the day before it was announced to the university community as a fait accompli. There was really no room for input. It was just, this is what's happening. And I would really like to see there be a different timeline on these changes so that people can prepare for the next year, more than just a few months ahead of time. And even really, I would like there to have been some sort of conversation about how we can gradually come in line with the benchmarks that were pointed to from peer institutions in the private sector, rather than all at once kind of taking on the burden. And yeah, that sums up my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Well, in answer to Megan's proposed amendment, Molly and I are thinking that, and here's some phrasing, we don't have it typed out. We can have it pasted if it sounds good, Megan. So, at a time when the university is cutting costs and allocations to units, and university senior leadership are receiving large salaries and additional pay, the shift of benefit cost to employees is both unfortunate and insulting. Something along those lines. And that would be added to the last paragraph before the outcomes section. So if that phrasing sounds good to you, Megan, in terms of capturing your thoughts, we are willing to accept that friendly amendment and add it to the letter.
Yes, I think that captures it perfectly. Thank you.
And we might do some slight wordsmithing since this is on the fly. But all right, thank you. Next speaker, Amber.
All right, next up is Angel Sandripi.
Hi, everyone. I'm on the P&A Consultative Committee, and I am aware that we were told that there would be no changes to the 2027 medical plan, but I do want to echo what our last, I believe it was Charles said. I would like to see a pause in this rollout. And it's really hard in 6 months for families to make changes, for an individual to make changes. And I would like to see it state, we understand we were presented that this is not going to pause, but we are asking you to sincerely think about pausing this rollout of the 2027 medical plan shift so that we can better prepare as employees for this. And if they're not going to do that, which they said that they were not going to, think about pausing the 2028 well-being discount, because this is just one blow after another. And it's really hard as an employee to get behind this. I also feel like we need to CC the Board of Regents on this and bring it up another level beyond the president. I would like to see the last sentence. We appreciate your prompt attention in this matter. Who do we appreciate prompt messaging from? Do we want messaging from everybody, including the president and the Board of Regents too? I would like to see a response back from everybody about this letter that we're sending up. But I'd like other people to weigh in on that too. those were my comments.
Thank you, Angel. I am going to leave your proposals open for the floor. Amber, next speaker.
The next speaker is John Patton.
Yes, so I'm a PNA senator, and I just given some of the comments, I wanted to kind of comment on Megan's discussion about, you know, additional benefits and things like that. Well, one thing that's a bit frustrating with the university is that, you know, we passed the Workforce Reinvestment Act. I want to say it's 2 years ago, asking for a lot of those additional benefits for university employees. And so it seems that to say, hey, why don't you give us what we asked for before, in response to, you know, what people have said is essentially a pay cut, seems like a step backwards, given that, you know, we got very little in response to that investment Reinvestment Act, and that was approved all the way by all the different senates and made its way to through the full consultative body. So that was just one comment. And I would also agree that I think that the regions should be copied on this letter, given the fact that I have not seen any positive feedback from the president, given all of these different requests that have been made from the Senate and lack of consultation with our formal bodies. So that's my comment.
Thank you, John. The letter is being updated for those of you in the document, as that is what we will be voting on when we do have a motion to actually vote, which is coming after this debate. So don't you worry, we have a speakers list. Amber.
All right, next is Heidi Rittmeyer.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am a civil service senator, and I echo many of the things that I'm hearing, and I'm for the letter. I have a lot of thoughts on this here. You know, I would like to see, you know, more specific rationale on this. You know, if we need to slow this down or stop it completely, this is way too fast, too much at once. We need more answers, simpler and broader communication on this. I would agree to include the regents on this as well. We need everybody to be as aware of this as possible. What is the timeline on this? Is there a timeline even posted on this? And then something else I, you know, kind of feel like is another slap in the face. You know, they had this meeting about this wellness program or something at one point and thought, you know, and one person brought up a really good point, you know, why aren't we supporting actual medical, you know, bills? Well, why are we just giving soft advice, you know, through the wellness program? And, you know, if we really, really want to get down to taking care of our employees' health, we really need to actually take care of our health. And medical is just going to be expensive no matter what, but we need to really put our focus on actual care, actual helping us fund our medical, not just, oh, just here's some mindful tips. You know, we need more concrete healthcare to really care for our employees. So those are the points I wanted to bring up. And I really hope that this letter outlines very clearly and maybe even a little aggressively how we really feel about this and how insulting this is to people that need this. And yeah, we cannot overlook this for employees that need this.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you.
In the background, Molly and I have accepted as a friendly amendment copying the Board of Regents on this letter, so you'll see that addition within it. Amber,
Next is Lisa Radke.
Hi, Lisa again from the Duluth campus. My comments are in support of the letter with another point of consideration. I think that the U needs to look at compensation and annual merit increases. Our current increases are deemed merit, but in my mind, in actuality, they are nothing more than a cost of living increase, and they're not guaranteed. So increases to our employees for healthcare is a cost of living change, and our merit increases should be reviewed to mirror that, or the pay cuts are only going to deepen over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Amber?
All right. Next, I'm going to go to somebody with a question. Heidi Cerdas Monhe.
Thank you. I'm Heidi Cerdas Monhe, P&A Senate, and also on the Benefits and Compensation Subcommittee. Megan, you really stated things succinctly, and I appreciate it. I'm in favor of the letter, but my question is, I do want us to use more forceful language. Here's a question, can we please use more forceful language in the letter? I think we're being very nice. I think we're not feeling nice. I think if we just play nice, we might not get the results. I've heard words like hoppin' mad. This is huge. Let us not please say nice things right now. Let us be professional. Let us be forceful, but let us roar. This is huge. This is not the time to say please and thank you. This is the time to demand and take action, which we are. But please, let's not be so Minnesota nice right now. This is big. Let's be big. Thank you. That's the question. Can we please use stronger language?
Thank you, Heidi. I think in the construction of this letter, Molly and I weighed how to phrase things. And Lori, I may kick this over to you for a short explanation in terms of legislative actions that may be taken by representative bodies within shared governance too, because that played a role in how we framed this legislative action and may explain why we chose to use the language that we did, because that was a factor. So, Lori, if you could explain within a couple minutes, like the layers of what we could do.
Sure, I'm happy to. And Heidi, thanks for that feedback. So the options that are available to any Senate or governing body at the university when they want to address an issue, there are three. There's writing a letter, which is where we're starting at now. There's also a statement which is not really in line with what we're hearing this morning that folks want, which is in the case of a statement, it's really just to register how you feel about something. A letter provides the opportunity to provide that feedback while also asking for something in return. This is always from my perspective, the guidance we always give is this is the place to start with some parameters around what the expectations are around what you're asking for. If the response is not favorable, then this could be escalated to another type of legislative action, including, for example, a resolution. The only difference here is that a resolution requires a response, but if the response is given as a result of a letter, then nothing else is required beyond that. And so, and honestly, in our office, we see a number of things get addressed at this level. And so I don't know, Daryl, if there's anything else you want me to say to that, but this would sort of follow the model that is used for this type of legislative action in governance.
I think that's a good explanation. Thank you very much, Lori. To your point, Heidi, we would use stronger language should it have been a resolution. So since we are composing a letter and asking, we are giving or extending the professional courtesy for a professional response in that manner. However, Molly and I are open to your ideas about where language could be stronger if you want to think about that and then hop back on the speakers list. I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, give us sentences right now. But if you mull things over and get back on the speakers list for something we can consider, we are open to that.
Thank you very much for laying that out. It's very informational and good to know some of the methods that governance can use. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, no problem. Amber.
Next in the list is David Zarubin.
David, I believe you're on mute.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. My name is David Zarubin. I work at the School of Dentistry, and I'm relatively new to the Civil Service Senate. And Heidi, I really appreciate your comments. They mirror a lot of what I was thinking and feeling. But what I wanted the letter to reflect, and I think it's okay to mention in the letter, that we are trying to build on years and years of relationship between OHR, the university, civil service, and PNA, that we are like a family. We're not corporate, right? We're a university. We work together to solve problems. Why were we just brought in at the last minute? Why weren't we consulted? And to just touch on the fact that we have a relationship. We built a relationship over the years, and this way this was rolled out and announced to us doesn't feel collaborative. It doesn't feel like, hey, let's work together. And we want to be professional and we want to be courteous. We're not getting that professionalism. We're not getting that courtesy. And we don't have to come out with guns a-blazing or come out with, sorry, that's a bad reference, but we don't have to come out just full force, but to acknowledge the past relationship and to say what's happened, what's changed, why is this different, and how can we work together going forward, because this does not work for us. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Amber, next up.
Next I will go to Mary Malone with a question.
Thank you. I actually just wanted to ask, and maybe this could be put in the letter or something, but I'm actually concerned about the lack of information with regard to the new pharmacy and prescription coverage. We don't seem to have the vendor yet. We don't know the impact that that's going to have. And truthfully, when you're talking about out-of-pocket expenses and the changes in what your prescription costs would be, that could be enormous. And we don't even have any of that information. I mean, so I'm just wondering if maybe we can make sure that since we don't even have any of that yet to even be able to respond to, if there is something in the letter that could be included about this is a great chance for transparency because we have no information whatsoever, just that that plan is going to change, and have no idea about the additional financial impacts of what those changes are going to be. And if they're in the midst of negotiation or whatever, maybe this is the time. I don't know. I just thought maybe that should be pointed out, or was wondering if it could be pointed out as a specific reference in the letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. To answer that question, I think that that is something that can come up in scheduled meetings that Molly and I already have with representatives from OHR. I know there's one on my calendar for later this month to begin asking those questions to get that information out. So I don't know if the letter is the proper mechanism for that when it's already sort of on our agendas and radars to get that info out. It's something that I've gotten a lot of questions about too. Amber.
Next is Laura Dale.
Hi, I'm Laura Dale from University Libraries. This is definitely a pay cut, and another term that comes to my mind is a take back. It feels like there's a take back from our benefits package. And I'm pro on the letter. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. Amber.
Next I will go to Carol Rachek, who has a question.
Thanks. If the vote is in favor of sending this letter, can the letter be shared with all employees in the P&A civil service class, perhaps even employees U-wide that are receiving benefits? And would it even possibly be worth, sharing it with some local newspapers?
Thank you for the question, Carol. So I can't speak to the second part because I myself and Molly as shared governance do not have like a public relations arm or something like that. However, I can address the first part that yes, I think we do plan on sharing this with our constituencies and making sure that folks know what is going on. I think transparency has been brought up several times this morning, and both of us are big proponents in transparency, not only in this, but in everything we do as chair. So, thank you, Lori, for throwing that in chat. It's posted publicly on the U Senate website as well. And I know that media outlets look at such things. So I can't say that we would reach out and share this in our capacities as chair, but the information is public. Amber.
Next in line is Sarah Bachman.
Hi, thank you for this time again. I wanted to support Heidi and Heidi in the statements that they made. I agree with the points that I think more aggressive language needs to be used. I know you explained that point, but I want to share my thoughts on that. Using statements like we are deeply concerned and we are insulted. These are feeling statements, and feeling statements don't transfer into actionable data items of what we are asking for. So I want to encourage our leadership, and I thank you for it, to look at this letter, be more aggressive in our language and what we're asking for. A theme I'm hearing amongst our colleagues is we want transparency and communication from the president of the university. We have seen this happen for the last year to 2 years in a couple different instances. And I think that's what we're asking for, specifically from that level. So I would encourage us to address that in this opportunity. We've seen OHR work with our senates through the processes in the past. Why is that not happening now? I think that's a question. That is a question of change. So I think this is an opportunity to ask that question. So that's my thought on that. I want to thank OHR for promptly getting back to me during this meeting about my email issue. That has been addressed. So I want to acknowledge that from their office. I'm sure I had a lot more other things to say, but I'm going to be done.
Thank you, Sarah. I am going to go ahead and yield to Lori for an explanation of sort of what we're hoping from this letter in terms of some of the requests that are coming up in this discussion.
Thanks, Daryl. You caught me off guard for just a moment. I think what I hear you asking is, I don't put words in your mouth. If you're asking, will the way that we phrase this letter determine or change the recommendations that are being asked for? What are you asking of me?
I appreciate that. That's excellent. I appreciate that. And thank you, Lori. I believe that if we are sending this and CCing the Board of Regents, which is the right thing to do, that's another point I wanted to support, that we be more aggressive in our language saying, we aren't deeply concerned, right? Like we are alarmed about the impact of the upcoming benefits. And I don't even know if that rephrasing of those words is enough. I think it's soft, and I know we're asking for things, but I also don't think we're conveying how our body truly is feeling by using a lot of big feeling-based, nice statements. And I can be more specific about that too. I don't know if I can do it well in this 1.5 minutes. But
Yeah, thanks for that. So, I had played a role, as Daryl and Molly said, in helping to craft this letter, and so the language that was selected was very purposeful. That is not to diminish the anger that people feel. It is not to diminish the very big feelings around this, which are justified. The question for me comes down to what are we asking for?
Sure.
And it
So we ask that you honor the requests we have outlined in this letter to ensure more robust consultation. We want to reply back. We want you to address why the president has engaged our systems and our senates ahead of time, asking that you honor our requests. Like we have processes in place. Please address this. Like direct questions. That's just my feedback. So
sure.
Yeah. And we can talk about, if you want me to be more specific. I don't know if that's fair for this body, but I just don't want to take up everybody else's time.
And I think as we are nearing the end of our time, Molly also wanted to talk about the composition of the letter and address that. So that may help give additional perspective from Lori coordinating both of us to sort of my co-author on the letter, Molly.
Yeah, and Sarah, thank you. I think many of your peers are sharing their reactions because they agree with you that the language could be more direct. Not direct, that we are quite direct with our requested outcomes, but the language could be more aggressive or firm. And what Lori was trying to speak to, and what Daryl and I really worked through as we worked every draft of this letter, is that would more aggressive language actually change the requested outcomes we're seeking? And the requested outcomes we're seeking, which start on page 2, I believe, of the letter. So if you're not focused on that piece of the letter at this point, I recommend you do, because that is the point of voting on this letter. The requested outcomes wouldn't change if our language is more aggressive in the narrative portion, because these are the direct requested outcomes we would like to see. And we very much hear and went through all of the stages of what you're talking about in our drafts. I can tell you my language was much more aggressive without without my co-authors here. Assertive, yes, assertive or aggressive, however you want to say it. We are angry. Employees are confused. They are concerned. They are alarmed. All of these words are absolutely correct. But the letter is a collective. We are representing thousands of employees who want specific outcomes, and that's what we want to focus on in our language. I would be willing, and we are working in the background, to use words like alarm instead of concern. It does sound correct to us. So we are working in the background to work on that piece. So thank you, Sarah. I totally appreciate what you're trying to say and agree with you.
I appreciate it. And yes, I know you are all doing that. And thank you for letting us speak on the matters.
All right, thank you all. I do see one more question in the queue. I want to make sure that we are addressing questions, so I will go ahead and accept that question, and then we need to move to a vote, keeping to our allotted time. So, Amber.
Yep, in the queue for a question is Katie Bohara.
Hello, I am a new senator with civil service representing the School of Public Health Division of Biostatistics. And I haven't heard anybody say, and I've read things, but I don't recall all the details. But it's my understanding that, due to funding being cut, we have a couple of employees, long-term employees, that are being let go, and not of retirement age, but the medical insurance costs for retirees is skyrocketing to an unaffordable level. So, I guess I would just ask that we also keep that in mind. for I don't know what we can do or say, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. All right, before we move into the vote, because there have been some language changes in that living document in the letter. So before we vote, I want everyone to have an opportunity to go ahead and look at this. I'm going to, if Lori can get the timer ready, give 2 minutes for review. Amber has pasted the link to the letter in the chat. So we're going to give 2 minutes, and then I will go ahead and move into a vote on this letter. So ready and go. For those of you in your window and reading, 1 minute warning. Ten seconds. All right, so we are going to move into the vote. I did want to bring up the feedback form, which has been linked in the chat throughout this meeting. Should you want to share more direct feedback, that is a great avenue for senators to do so. I encourage you to do it. The Senate office is going to collect all that feedback, anonymize it, and then send it on. So that is another way in which you can express your thoughts and your constituents' thoughts. Lori, could you please explain how voting will work in this joint Senate meeting?
Sure, I'm happy to. There are going to be two separate votes that are taken, one for civil service and one for P&A. I will begin with civil service just because it's the first one that comes up for me, but I do want to ask Dina on my team. Dina, do we have quorum for civil service?
We do.
Okay. So with that, if you are here representing P&A, P&A senator, or an alternate who's here in place with her, do not vote on this one. This is only for civil service senators. And the way, and you will see as the question is phrased is whether to approve the letter going forward. So I'm going to launch that poll first. Civil service. Okay, you should see the poll now. Again, P&A, hold off. I'm going to give a few more moments for people to respond. Okay, a few more seconds. Okay, so civil service senators have unanimously approved sending this letter forward. Now, civil service folks, if you could just hold off for a moment. P&A, I'm going to launch this now. If you're a P&A senator, you should vote on this. If you are an alternate here in place of another senator, you should vote as well. Civil service will just hold back. So here we go. Give me a moment. And there you should see that. And it is the same question, but just for P&A senators. Give a few more moments for people to make sure that they respond. Oh, yes. Donovan, someone reminded me. Donovan, on my team, do we have quorum for P&A?
We do have quorum.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. 5 more seconds to vote. Okay. With 1 no vote and 52 yes votes, the letter will be sent. Daryl and
Thank you,
Molly,
everyone.
turn it back to you.
Yes. So that concludes my second portion of this meeting. I'm going to yield back to Molly to close us out.
Yes, thank you. And again, thank you to the Senate office staff. These special sessions and especially joint sessions are very complicated, and we really appreciate their help. So thank you so much, Senate office staff. Thank you all, senators, alternates, everybody else who joined us. We do have guests here that are not either and wanted to hear what we were talking about. What you are doing is exactly what governance is built for. We are representing thousands of employees' concerns, ideas, thoughts, everything about their experience here as employees. And we really appreciate that you've put the time together, especially those who are new and have yet to be onboarded to Senate work, to governance work. We appreciate you very much. You've represented your constituents well. Continue to do so. Please continue to bring these forward. This is not the end of this conversation, but we will send this letter forward. And so on behalf of our joint session, Daryl and I are thanking you for being here, and we are adjourned.